All right, Lyle, Leanne, thanks for calling in from, I believe, Australia. How are you doing?
Yeah, g'day. How are
Hey,
you?
Jerry, we're great. Thank you. Yes, we're on the Sunshine Coast in Queensland, Australia.
Awesome. And, I'm calling you at 4 in the afternoon, Texas time. And I believe it's like bright and early over there. You got your first cup of coffee, I think 8 a.m. Is that right?
That's correct. Yes, we've been up for a little while, had our first coffee, and yeah, it's been in the swimming pool to get all hyped up and ready.
Ready, around, and to go.
I love that. And, of course, the nerd in me is excited because I'm literally talking to people who are in tomorrow. For me, anyway. I'm a dork.
Yeah, we're back to the future now, aren't
Right.
you? How does that work?
Yes. Yeah, if you get over here real quick, you'll be in the past. You're talking to the past. Look at that. Oh man. Okay. So we connected. Well, actually, you found me, and then you found me again, and we finally got this nailed down. So I'm glad we were able to get this going. And the thing about your life that really stood out to me is you've got a podcast called Beach Travel Wine. Did I do? I got that. I got it.
Yeah,
Yes.
correct.
I always mix up wine and travel. Priorities, I guess.
Yeah.
So you got Beach Travel Wine. It's your travel podcast together. And the thing that stood out to me was that you wanted to get out of that rut of retirement. So the thing that a lot of us are aiming to get to, you're like, no, retirement's a thing that, we're retiring from some things. And, but really, how'd you say it on, was it Beyond Retirement with Jackie Doucette, that you're living beyond the rut of retirement, and that it was really about you wanted to retire to something and not from something. Like a lot of us, we retire from a career, we retire from a business, and you're like, we want to retire to travel and being with family and so on. And so I'd really love to get that conversation going about what brought you there and what are some of the things that you brought into place. But I guess let's kick it off with Beach Travel Wine. Like tell us about that show and why people should listen to it. What's it? Yeah, we'll start there. Boom. I want to ask all the questions at the same time.
Okay, well, beach. Yeah. All right. Well, Beach Travel Wine. The reason it's called Beach Travel Wine, I'll give you just a quick background on that. Was I was trying to come up with a name for a travel writing blog that I was going to do before we even started the podcast. Before we even retired, and I just couldn't come up with something that I thought was suitable. And then all of a sudden, these three words sort of stood out at me. And beach is where we live, and it's where we spend time with family and friends. It's our home. So that was important. And then travel is what we, when we met, it's what we wanted to do. It's what we love doing. And then wine. I mean, we do love a nice glass of wine, but the wine also, covers, sitting down at a table with, family and new and old friends, meeting people over a glass of wine, and that social side. So that those three things sort of cover, our retirement. I guess it seemed to be that. So that's why it's Beach Travel Wine. And we just we started. We wanted to travel. Like I've always wanted to go to Spain. I was just like, since I was a little girl. So we had family, I had family early and didn't travel as a young person. So, we feel like we needed to make up for it now that we were retired, and we wanted a way to do it that suited us. And we just started the podcast on a bit of a push from me, because I was like, I was like, it'd just be cool. Lyle jokingly tells everybody that I started it so when I put him into a nursing home, he can sit and listen to the travel stories. I don't think I don't remember saying that out loud, but it's just it was a great way to chronicle our travels and share with family and friends, and the idea of it is, you can sit down, listen to one of our podcasts, and you feel like you're sitting around that table with us, having the glass of wine and talking travel stories. And so, we like to really go into the places we go. We like to give lots of information as well. Lyle loves the history, he does all like the research, but what it's like to be sitting in a plaza in Italy or Spain, or drinking red wine somewhere. That's the feel that we want for the podcast.
Awesome. And you pull it off, because before you got
I
on
just do as I'm told, Jerry.
I love that. And I was thinking about like what you said, that the podcast is really like when you can't keep up with her anymore, you got something to listen to while you're in the nursing home. And I'm like, that is like some serious motivation to stay healthy and fit and try to keep up.
Sure. You're right on all cases there, and and actually, there's a lot more she has said along those lines that she's probably not going to say on the video. So, I got broad shoulders, mate, so I cop it on the
I
chin.
do not think that.
So that's the way it is.
And you know what else about the podcast? And it's we'll probably talk more about this later. We didn't have any idea at the beginning of how good it would be for our relationship, because we bring different skill sets and to the podcast, and we both love the areas that we work on. Like Lyle loves doing research and the history and just finding out all the information about a place, and I love doing the photographs and putting it together on the blog post and like the social media and sharing all that sort of stuff. And so it's something that we do apart, but then we come together, and it just feels like such a great project, and we feel really satisfied by doing it together.
Yeah, I think that what we didn't know when we started was how much doing the podcast has actually enhanced the holidays. And it has enhanced it enormously. And I think, what Leanne's saying too, is it's really enhanced our relationship because it's actually something we look forward to.
And it's interesting to hear you both say that, because I've known quite a few couples where traveling is a very stressful thing for them. And I know between my wife and I love to travel. For her, it depends. And a lot of times it's more stress than it is enjoyment. And, I guess if we were both the same in that way, one of us would be redundant, and it'd most likely be me. But to see that you've grown and learned from each other, seeing your differences and going about the travel in your own way and then bringing that together has been really nice to see. And then, Lyle, you mentioned that traveling has also enhanced your experience with the holidays. Tell me more about that. Tell us about that.
Well, I do. For instance, we're going overseas in late April, and we're doing Croatia, Slovenia, Montenegro, and then we're going to skip over to Spain for a couple of weeks. I'm not sure why we're doing that, but I think just because we want to go to Spain. But I'll do the research prior to that, and what I'm saying is that we'll look at the buildings and we'll have an idea of actually how old it is, who built it, and whether or not they're famous or not. And often we do tours as well. And I enjoy that side of it because obviously the locals know so much more about it. So during the tour, they quite often bring up things that you had no idea about. But, that probably the fact that you've done the research prior to it, you just know what you're looking at. You know what you're looking at.
I love that. It's much deeper because I know when I was young, when I was in the Army, stationed in Germany, for a lot of my friends, it was all about, let's go to the pub, let's get drunk. That's what soldiers do. And I was the oddball because I'm like, I want to go to that museum over there in Frankfurt, and I want to learn about, what Frankfurt was like when it was founded by the Roman Empire, or I think it was older than that. But, that was my kind of thing. Or like we'd walk by a wall, like in Trier, which was like the oldest city. It is the oldest city in Germany. And you get to see the old gate and portions of the old city wall from the Roman Empire, and I'd have to touch it, just because I do that. And I'm like, I want to touch that, and everybody's looking at me in my group like, "What are you doing?" And I'm like, "This goes back thousands of years, guys."
Sure. Well, our history in Australia is 200 years old. From when white settlers came here, so we don't have a lot of history. So that any of that sort of places we go in Europe, it just fascinate us, don't they?
Yeah, well, I think the other side of it too is before we started doing this, a quote was, if you go to a museum, you've been in a city one day too long. And I think maybe because we're older and we've got more time and whatever, that now is totally the opposite. We just came back from Italy and we spent a week in Florence and a week in Rome, and just the architecture, just the beauty, the art, it just blows your mind, And when you've got a bit of an idea before you go, it does really enhance the holiday.
Well, and you want to get the best information to share with people as well. So, you're always trying to find out the best places to go and that sort of thing too.
Yeah, and I think one of the things that we've found too is that, and maybe it's because we're older and people feel sorry for us and they're happy to talk to us because, know how it is. But what we find, and because we like a drink, we often go to a local bar, not the real flash bars. I'm talking like
corners, the little local corner bar.
Local corner bar. And what we've found is that we get to chat to the people behind the bar. There was a guy was it Rum?
Yes.
Yeah, Angelo. Seriously.
He just had so much time.
That good looking.
He should have been a model.
And Leanne's chin hit the bar when she saw him. And he spoke to us for about an hour. Leanne's pinching.
I'm like selling stories.
And but he spent an hour with us, just telling us where the right places to go.
I think what Lyle's trying to say is we love connecting with people, and you can do that really well if you just go to one of the little local places. And the people who work there just love that you go there and you want to know about where they live.
I thought that's what I did say.
Oh man! Now, do you find that when you do that the memories from those smaller, bars and wineries, those conversations with the locals, do you find that those memories stand out more than if you went to, a typical tourist, what do you call that? Tour guide, or you just, paid your money like hundreds or thousands of other people to go see a site? Like, which of those tend to stand out to you more?
Oh, it's definitely the places we discover on our own. Although we do, like in Italy, you do need to do some of those tourist hotspots because, you're not going to go to Rome and not go to the Vatican or see the Colosseum. That's important. But, what we do, we take our time traveling, and we're lucky that we have the time to do that. And one of our favorite things to do, no matter where we are, is to walk in our front door and just say, which way today? And we just head off, right or left, and we just don't care where we end up. We just explore, and that's probably been some of our favorite things because we just, find little courtyards and little gardens and, just gorgeous little places around that, aren't on the normal tourist trail. So yeah, we love doing that. That's
sure. And the fact that we don't know where we go, we can't be disappointed when we don't find whatever we were looking for.
I love that openness. My wife and I have gone on some trips where, similar to Lyle, I'll research, we got to see this, the history of this. And then, when we do get there though, my wife's like, I want to go that way. Why? Because it doesn't seem as crowded and it looks interesting. And then we wind up finding these like gems, and I'm like, this is way cooler than what I was going to take us to. But now that the crowd has died over there, let's go check that out real quick and see our must-haves. And yeah, it's really neat to just go off the beaten path, especially if you're in a safe town and see some neat things.
Yeah, and you generally find these European cities aren't that big either, the old towns, because obviously they didn't have a big populations back then, and they were most of them surrounded by walls, so that you can walk around the whole city generally and see so much. Yeah.
Yeah, Trier was like that for us when we visit. I saw more than just Trier, but that's where I
that's
knew
stuck in your memory.
Yes, because I took my now wife of 22 years to go there with me. We were dating at the time. I'm like, I'm going to impress her. I'm going to take her here. We're going to see all the sights. She remembers that it was rainy. I took her to a hostel.
You don't know where you're coming from.
Yes. I'd be like, it can work, Liv. We made this work. Oh, man. Now, to pull this off, though, because, you're retired now, but you had a business and you sold it in 2019. So I guess a lot of folks will be asking, or, some people are like, well, it must be nice. They can go. They're retired. But how do you fund a lot of these, if you don't mind me asking? You don't have to go into numbers or anything, but just like, what are the kind of the broad buckets that allow you to live this lifestyle and to see the world?
When we sold the business, we we went and got some good financial advice, and we said to them, this is what we want to do, and we want to travel, every year, and this is the amount that we think we'll need to do that. And sometimes traveling for a bit longer, like 8 weeks plus, doesn't cost much more than 4 or 5 weeks because you're spreading out your accommodation. It's cheaper to stay a week sometimes than 2 or 3 days. And, when you come from Australia, it's a 24-hour trip. So you're not, the longer you can stay, the better. The flights are always going to be expensive. We also, try and do a lot of, as we said, walking tours and that sort of thing. And yeah, we look for little places to stay that are like local but not over the top. And the other thing is we downsized. We only have a 2-bedroom apartment. We decided that we were just going to have the one car and just live a bit more simply. And that really makes a huge difference. A lot of people, our unit isn't modern. A lot of people would spend, the money to renovate. And we've just decided, you know what, we turn the water on, it comes out, we've got chairs to sit on, we're happy, we've got beautiful views. Our family can come here. We don't need all that flash stuff. We'd rather spend the money now while we're still healthy and happy to travel. So we've made it a priority, I guess you could say.
Yeah, we don't have that, like at home, we're not precious about where we live, as in it's still beautiful. Like I'm looking out here now at the Pacific Ocean that's across the road. So, it's nice.
Yeah.
But,
you guys are roughing it in Queensland, right?
Yeah. She's still like the crocodiles.
we value experiences more than the things. Yeah.
So, and I, as Leanne said, we budgeted for what we're doing. And I think too, and this is, look, a lot of it comes down to personalities too. I think, what some people are more risk averse than others and whatever. We've probably, fortunately, got very similar personalities as we travel and that sort of thing, so that we, both Leanne and I think that willpower is overrated. And so that we sort of just think, well, why not? Let's go. At the end of the day, life's too short. So
we'll figure it out when we get there. Yeah.
Don't think about it too much. Just go.
Yeah.
I love that you brought up willpower is overrated. Tell us a bit more about that. Like, what is it about willpower that either keeps us from traveling or keeps us from doing that adventure that we always tell folks, someday I'll go. That's a place, someday I'll. That's, anyway, that's nerdy joke on my part. But like, what is it about willpower that either prevents us or keeps us from doing the thing that we want to do?
No?
I think that it comes down to probably a little bit of confidence, self-confidence. And neither Leanne and I are shy. And we've come from obviously different work backgrounds. But, I was in hospitality and I ran big pubs and nightclubs. And, Leanne's had a whole bunch of jobs, from schools to all sorts of things. And she also was personal trainer. She was in the fitness industry for a long, long time.
I guess I see a lot of willpower running out there as well. I think, the thing about willpower is overrated is, it's more about consistency. Like willpower just seems, it seems to be an all or nothing sort of concept. And Lyle and I, just aren't like that. We set our minds on doing something and we just do a little bit each day to get to that, So, I'm just discipline's probably a little bit better, but consistency. So
I think
we're not all or nothing.
Probably, I'm probably in some ways we're probably willpower as in discipline, and they're correlated. And we're very disciplined in we exercise every day and we do that sort of thing, mainly so that we're healthy enough that we can do what we do. But I think people, and this again is personality, it's not saying this is right or wrong. Some people are more interested in finding reasons why not to do something than finding reasons to do something.
Oh,
and I think people that what do they say about worry? Worries is often it's just a debt that you shouldn't have to pay. And that's, I've got that wrong, but it's similar to that. And so, we tend not to worry. And I've had a fantastic life. And to be perfectly frank too, Leanne and I met 10 years ago, and I said to Leanne the other day, and I only started really traveling then, And I said to Leanne, and this is true, and it sounds romantic and all the rest of it, but it is true that I never thought that I would have so much fun from, I'm now 68. I never thought I'd have so much fun from 58, to 68. I have had an absolute ball. We laugh all the time. We don't take each other too seriously. I mean, there's, in a lot of the podcasts, it's waiting for the opportunity to take the piss out of one another. That's my favorite part of it. I don't know about Leanne. But yeah, so, I'll leave it at that.
Awesome. And I love the part that Leanne brought up about consistency. Like you want to take a trip, you agree on the trip, and you don't just look at like what it'll cost and say, "Oh man, we don't have that right now. I guess we'll not go right now." You figure out what will it cost, what will it take every single day to get there? What kind of things do we need to learn as we prepare for that trip? And so you're putting that plan in place so that an idea now becomes a creation, a tangible place where you're going, and then the plan becomes tangible as well. That we got to set aside so much, or we got to basically set aside so much, and we got to make payments to certain things at certain times, and this is how we'll make it happen. And then you pull the trigger on it. There's no maybe we'll go next week, or maybe we'll go next year. And I've seen quite a few couples complain about that, like, oh man, yeah, we had to hold off, and we've done it ourselves. Like, oh yeah, we'll never be able to go on an Alaska cruise. It's like, why not? We could. And our kids are growing up now, so we don't have to wait.
I'll tell you a funny story. We were talking about going overseas this time because last year we had a big year, and I won't go into it, but we did 3 overseas trips, and so we're away for 10, 12, 14, about 16 weeks. And anyway, I said to Leanne, financially, and I said, the only thing that really worries me, and I sort of, I don't want people to think that I'm joking, and taking this not seriously, but I said to Leanne, the only thing that worries me, we could end up in a bloody world war the way things are going at the moment. And Leanne looked at me straight away and she said, well, if there's a world war, we don't have to worry about it. None of us will have to worry about it. So I actually then just said, okay, I'm going, let's go.
We even had, after COVID, when we could travel again, as soon as the borders were open, we booked a trip, we're gone, and
we knew we could get back in.
Yeah. And,
yes.
And because Australia had pretty tight border, restrictions. And, we had friends and family that were horrified, that we would consider traveling, just because the borders were open, it wasn't safe. And that never entered our mind. We were just like, well, if we get sick, we'll isolate where we are. We want to go.
And if we came back and we had to quarantine,
we do it.
Well, you just add that to the cost of the holiday.
So yeah, it was never. Oh my gosh, like
a week of that's going to be,
jet lag
anyways.
And touch wood, neither of us have had COVID at once. So we've travelled everywhere. So we've been a bit blessed that way. But I think once again, like Lyle was saying, it's about personalities, and I do see friends, that are sort of our age now, and it's sad because say the husband wants to travel and she doesn't like flying, and well, how about we go on a cruise? Oh, I don't like ships, or I don't want to go to that country, or I don't want to do this, and I find that really sad because you're at that time of your life, as you said, your kids are grown and you have a little bit more free time, and and these dreams that you had, your partner doesn't have with you. So I think that's something that to maybe think about before you get to retirement, and what you can do to combat that, and so you both can do things that you want to do, right?
Yeah. In fact, my wife and I are probably like that in the sense that I'm a little more daring. I'm the guy that, like, I left home for college. After that, I was like, well, I don't want to go back home. I'll join the Army. And not just that, I want to ask if I can get stationed overseas, away from everybody I know and love. And when I get out of the Army, it's like, where can we travel? And my wife's been more of she's grown up in the same town. She knows the people there. It's nice. It's safe. It's comfortable. And I remember, and this isn't to throw shade at my wife, But a couple years back, a friend of ours invited us to go on a cruise with them, and we had never been on one before. And there was a great deal. It was like 65% off the tickets if we bought it at a certain time. I'm like, what? Let's go. The food's included. Let's go now. And I remember she was nervous about it. Like, oh, how do we know it's going to be safe? How do we get back in the country? All kinds of questions. If we go on a cruise, and then this is kind of her way to kind of protect herself from adventure, she'll upgrade what the requirement is to where she knows for a fact we can't afford that. She's like, well, if we go on a cruise, it'd have to be through the Panama Canal. And I'm like, why? Like, how about we do a tester 4-day cruise that our friend Brian invited us on, and then we'll see if we even like it. And so we wound up going. I remember I was like, look, we can come up with these reasons to not go. And then 5, 10 years from now, 15 years from now, maybe I die, and you'll be like, man, I never got to go on that cruise with Jerry, and he wanted to do that. And like it was a little minor guilt trip bit, but it was meant to be like, what if we get to the end of our life and it's like all these things we did not do, and here's an opportunity to do a thing that we can afford to do. It's only going to cost us a few $100, and it's going to cost us 5 days and 4 nights. That's it. There's worse things we can do with our time.
If you hate it, exactly. If you hate it, then at least you can sit by the pool and have a cocktail.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think too. I mean, the world's your world's always full of trade-offs. I mean, I suppose we're probably giving people the impression that we're very casual, whatever. But in our working lives, we work very, very, very hard. When we had the accommodation place, we were in a tourist area, and we were there for 14 years, and it's basically 7 days a week. So for me to travel now, that's my reward. That's the trade-off. What I did when you're working nightclubs till 5 o'clock in the morning, and you're starting in midday and you're going at 5 o'clock in the morning because you've got a pub. So there's daytime trade as well. There's bistros, there's restaurants, there's all that sort of thing. So you work your butt off. And don't get me wrong, I love doing that too. Like I had the best working life. I worked for the best people. We're still close to that. But so,
we both feel like if something happens tomorrow and we couldn't go away anymore, we don't have any regrets. Like, we don't have this amazing bucket list, that's well, we don't have this many number of countries that we have to get to, like that's not in our sort of makeup. I had a few little bits and pieces I wanted to do from as a child. I wanted to go hot air ballooning, and I wanted to go to the Chelsea Flower Show and a few things, which I've done all those things. So now, it's not a matter of ticking stuff off. People said to me the other day, someone asked me, so how many countries have you been to? And I'm like, I don't, I probably could tell you, but I said, it doesn't matter. Like for us, it's not about spending a night visiting one place and then going to another one. We just, we want to go somewhere and just getting involved and engrossed in the culture and the people in an area. And that's what we love to do. And we've been lucky enough to do that for the last 10 years. And, if we can't go anywhere else ever, we no regrets at all. And I think that's what you're trying to say beyond the rut is, you don't want to be that, you don't want to get to that stage of your life where you have regrets, because we have zero now.
Yes. And that's...
Yeah, I think, I'll go on, sorry.
Oh, no, go ahead.
I just think that, we were just, and Lan says it's not like we engineered it. And yeah, that's true.
Hard, yeah.
That's true. But I just think, like I met Lan on the 1st of May, 2015. And and since then it's just been perfect. I call her Miss World. And she has, I just, like, you've got to go for it. You've got, like, and I've got her beside me, what am I going to do? Sit there and not have a go? Like, it's just, and everything, like, we've done some incredible things. We've had a helicopter flight from Queenstown in New Zealand.
Landed on a glacier.
And went down to Milford Sound. Was it expensive? Yeah, it was. But, man, I'll never, ever forget that. We actually did a helicopter in Hawaii, in that Jurassic Park, the waterfall, and it was just amazing. I mean, seriously amazing. We did a trip to, what was that place in Amalfi?
The Isle of Capri.
The Isle of Capri.
Yeah.
We did a boat ride, like a private boat ride, and it was so. There's just things to look back on, and they probably, when we talk to other people, we probably bore the shit out of them, but it doesn't matter. We had a good time, and
But you know what, Jerry? We talk about overseas travel, and I guess for Australians, that's a pretty normal thing because everything, we're sort of here on our own,
Yes.
and everything is overseas.
it takes us half a day to go to the corner shop.
You're your own island, country, and continent all rolled into one.
Correct, we are. So, but you don't have to travel overseas to experience it. You're saying your wife, likes where she is, but there'd be so many places in your own backyard that you could just go and explore. And we've got friends that love the camping sort of lifestyle. So they, a lot of Australians sort of head north, right up sort of to North Queensland in winter when it's cold down south. And they spend months doing that, and they just love it. You just need to find what works for you. Now, one of the things we sometimes do too, which I haven't done for a little while, I've got a favourite singer called Jimmy Barnes. He's like the legend of Australian rock and roll. If he's playing somewhere, that we just want to go, we're just like, well, let's go and see him there, and we'll have a week.
That'll be like in a state.
Yeah,
We'll travel to another
we went
state.
to the Maldives.
We went to the Maldives
and
to see him.
we went to Darwin, and so we just sometimes you find something that you're interested in, go and see that, and then add some days on and just explore a bit. It doesn't have to be these huge, grand 8-week trips all through Europe.
Yes.
You just find what's good to you. If you love gardens, go. It's beautiful gardens all the way around the country and around the world. There's so much you can do to just get out there and enjoy your life.
Yeah. In fact, going back to just for the folks who are like, hey, well, how did it turn out with the cruise? She loved it. 2 years later, she still talks about it. In fact, our son's going on his own cruise based on my wife's report to all the family.
Well done.
And another neat thing, like you brought it up, like there are things in our own backyard that we could see and do. And this just happened last week, I think. And my wife, she came up to me and she was like, hey, Jerry, there are like 30 major league ballparks in the United States. And I perked up. I said, yes, there are. And she's like, I heard that there's somebody who's like traveled like every single ballpark in the US. I was like, yes, there are people who do that. And of course I'm keeping it chill because in my head, I'd like to see every minor league baseball park as well. But I was like, I know where she's going with this and I like to see it unfold in front of our eyes. And so she asked if I'd be open to us for the remainder of our lives, as soon as possible, start visiting all the Major League Baseball parks during the baseball season. And I was like, yes. And she's like, where's the nearest one? I was like, Houston. Well, we got one down the street about 16 miles away, the Texas Rangers. That's easy. That kind of counts, but we also have gone there. And then Houston would be the next one. And then she's like, what's the next nearest one? I said, Kansas City, the Royals. And she's like, what else? St. Louis Cardinals. Like I already had this plan in my head, but she was just asking, she was getting excited. And I thought, are you saying we should go? And she's like, I think it'd be really cool if maybe this year we go to Houston for a week and we go see a game or two. She's like, I'd love to see Wrigley Field while it's still there. And, maybe see one game on the outfield wall where they've got the ivy growing over the wall. And then one game outside the park where they've got those rooftop bars. I'm like, yes, let's do this. And I was like, Chicago has 2 baseball teams. We can go see the White Sox and the Cubs twice. And she's like, yeah. And so it was just really cool to see her light up. And I know this is real because she started telling other people, this is what we plan to do. This is our bucket list. This is our thing. We're going to do this thing. And I was like, and can we still do every single Disney park? Because that's my list. I've got one.
Well, yeah, that's pretty good.
Yeah. So it's really cool to have like, what's that thing you go after? And then taking a page from your book. Now it's like, okay, what does a trip to Houston cost us? For us, we get to drive. So we're looking at lodging, food, and then tickets for the ball game. And then do we want to see a team that's good and the tickets cost a little more? Or do we want to see the Astros play somebody who's not so good and the tickets are cheaper? What's the experience we want to get out of that? And then from there, start planning Kansas City and St. Louis and branch out from there. Do we want to do a tour of California? Because there's like 5 baseball teams in California because one's not enough.
There you go.
Yeah.
And now I've got another idea. you could podcast about it.
Yes. Oh, yes. New show coming to you in 2024, guys.
Yeah, there you go. And you know what? So many people would love that, like that experience that you're doing. As you said, other people talked about it. So that's a great example. Just find what you like to do and add that into your travel. For us, it did start a bit as like wine regions. We've been to some beautiful wine regions around the world, because where there's wine regions, there's beautiful food often and nice scenery. You don't see wine areas in awful places. So yeah, that's exciting. I can't wait to hear the next podcast.
Thank you. Yes, I got to pitch it to her as soon as we stop talking here. Now, making this relevant.
I was going to say, with Mrs. Dugan.
Right? she's in the other room playing with the cats right now. But yeah, this will be so cool to pitch to her. Now, to make this achievable for folks listening in, because chances are you're not at retirement age, but you're thinking, man, someday I'd love to travel, and Jerry's talking about this, and guys, I'm in my 40s, so this is something I've been thinking about and wanting to do forever, and travel a lot more. That is. And we can make it happen. I know in the US, I don't know if it's the same in other countries, but we have compulsory education. And, the way our schools get funded is per student per day in the seats. So a lot of states in the US, as well as a lot of cities, pass these ordinances and laws that almost criminalize if your children miss too much school. And I know the district where our kids went, I'll try to tell the short version of this. We wanted to take them to Disney World for a week. And the cheapest time to go is when the school year is happening. So Labor Day weekend on to the next week, 10 days, I think it was, or 9 days. And the school was like, oh, well, if you take them out now, like they're going to miss so much. And it might hurt their chances. Like they were just giving us this guilt trip. And they're saying, if you miss 10 days of unexcused absences within a 6-month window, you'll have to go to court, and lots of doomsday type of warnings. And then the thing that really got me was the principal said, but this is like a formative time in their education. This could impact them getting into college even. And I was like, my daughter's in kindergarten. She's 5. We're trying to teach her colors, shapes, and not to eat the crayons. I think she'll be fine. And then our son's going into 1st grade, 2nd grade. What is that? Addition, subtraction, multiplication. I could teach him that while we're on the way. And they're like, well, you're just hurting his education. And I was like, but what if I took my kids out and took them to, say, Washington, D.C. and took a tour of the Smithsonian Museum? Would you say that is more or less educational for my children? Well, it's just not the same as the classroom instruction they would receive. I'm like, in kindergarten and 1st grade or 2nd grade. And they just they couldn't speak to it. It was against the script, I guess. And then I found out we had this really wonky rule in the school district that if my kids had to skip school for, say, meeting their probation officer because they committed a crime, that would be considered an excused absence. But if I took my children out to go on an educational, enriching tour of the United States or of Europe, anywhere in Europe would be educational, Asia, Japan, Korea, any of these things would be educational, that would be considered an unexcused absence and not beneficial for my children's education. It's so backwards. Probably explains a lot right now, but guys, you didn't hear that. So anyway, I think all that to say, me landing my plane is, for me personally, if there is benefit there, whether it's getting away as a family or taking your kids on an educationally enriching type of experience, weigh that out. It's not as scary as they make it sound. That rolling clock resets anyway. 6 months go by. What an unexcused absence is. Then you go on another vacation. You don't have to hold yourselves down.
And what about all the time that they were locked down and couldn't go to school because of COVID? That didn't affect their, in the long run.
Right.
I know people saying it's going to, but it hasn't. Everybody still functioning okay.
Well, Leanne's son and daughter-in-law were talking to Leanne, I think it was last week, and they've got 2 little ones, 3 and 2. Yeah. And they were talking to Leanne about maybe taking the kids over to Europe, probably Spain or Portugal, and
for 12 months.
For 12 months.
Yeah.
Oh,
and of course, Leanne's very encouraging because she wants to go visit. But, I mean.
But what sort of education is that for them?
Sure.
Like that?
It's huge.
Yeah.
And exposure to different cultures too. I mean, that's the other side of what I enjoy about travel is that you see so many different cultures, and you're exposed to it. And what I've found now, as I've got older, and I think too, I'm a bit older, so you've made enough mistakes to have some wisdom, and you find that when you look at each culture, no one is better than the other.
Yeah. You sometimes go in with a bit of a judgment, like how people live, or maybe, their lack of hygiene, or their
lack of money.
Money, really, and you sort of think, oh my gosh, but then you realize this is how these people live. They're happy, they're smiling, they're friendly. You don't put your values or the way you live onto other people. I think that's what we're trying to say. You need to embrace the different way people live all over the world and their own beliefs, because they're entitled to those as much as we are. And I think the more you travel, the more you become much more empathetic to other people.
Yes. And that's an education that if you expose your kids to different cultures at a younger age, when they get older, they're going to appreciate differences of opinion. They're going to appreciate different perspectives. It's going to make them more effective in the workplace, in business, life in general. And there's a lot of research, developmental research, or developmental psychology type of research that backs that, like the 40 developmental assets out of somewhere in the U.S. The Search Institute came up with it. But yeah, and a friend of mine, Lee Cockrell, used to run Walt Disney World Resort. He even talks about like being exposed to other cultures, new experiences made him from little town Ardmore, Oklahoma, much more worldly and to understand and appreciate differences by being exposed to different cultures and people with names that sound way different than his own. And I think that we do our kids a disservice when all we do is lock them up in a 9-to-5 school setting 9 months out of the year and basically program them. And then we put them in a world that is not programmed at all. It's like we wonder why they struggle. So I could probably get on that soapbox forever. So if folks want to listen to your show, and I think they should because you nailed it. It does feel like you're sitting there on the beach with you in a restaurant, a bistro. I was listening to your show before we got on this call. And when you actually got on the call, I was like, wait, what? Oh, yeah, I'm listening to their show. This is them for real. And I had to cross over. Where can I find your show?
Oh, thanks. That's lovely, Jerry. Thank you. We're at, we have a website called beachtravelwine.com. So, it's pretty easy. All our podcasts you can find there. Of course, if you want to have your favorite podcast player, it's Beach Travel Wine, on any of those. So, yeah, we're just Beach Travel Wine everywhere. But, yeah, check out our website. I do a blog post for each podcast, which includes all the pictures that we talk about in the places, and it has links to any of the places that we chat about as well. So it's like a really good reference and maps and things. So
awesome.
Yeah, we're in the moment we're in the middle of doing our Aussie summer series. So we're actually out and about, walking around and recording as we go, just around this beautiful area. So that but we've been we've got podcasts all about other places in Australia and Italy and Mexico and Spain and New Zealand. So there's a whole range of stuff there.
Oh, that's right.
And just go back to the kids side, if I can.
Yes.
Leanne has 8 grandchildren and 1 on the way. That's why we've got to get back by July, this particular trip, because the next one's due in July. But I said to Leanne, one of the things about what we've done and the fact that we've done this podcast, this series of podcasts about overseas, I said, is that I honestly believe that Leanne is leaving a legacy to her grandchildren and her grandchildren's children and children, because obviously this will be forever. It won't only just be for me in the nursing home. And I just find that so wonderful that Leanne's going to pass this on to her family.
Well, that they can sit and listen to your voice, even if they they forget, they won't forget you, I guess.
And on top of that, you're exposing them to a whole new world that they haven't seen yet. And that is really cool too. So the legacy is more than just capturing your voice and your perspectives and your adventures. It's it's a key to another world for them. Before we go, any final words of wisdom that you'd like to share with our listeners?
No, that could go on for hours. We've got-
I was thinking the opposite, actually.
That's the hard part. You only get to pick one.
The only thing, hang on. Yeah. The only thing is, what you got to understand is there's certain things that don't go on the podcast.
But what's that?
Leanne won't let me put them in.
That's the wisdom you give everybody now from that wedding that someone said at the wedding.
Oh, yeah. When we went to a
You don't need the whole story, just the
wedding, and
the thing.
the father of the bride during the speech to
His new son-in-law.
his new son-in-law, and he said, "Over the years, I've realised you can either be right or happy."
So choose happy. So that's love.
That's why wisdom. Yeah. Don't argue. Just go along. It's quite, there's no point. There's no gain in trying to win. Just go along with it. And life's
happy wives, happy lives. My bit of wisdom would be, things don't matter. Try make memories, with your family, and just go out and do what's comfortable for you, but just try and expand your paradigm a bit and go and learn something about somewhere else. It's just the best thing to do.
I love that. Lyle, Leanne, I'm glad we were able to connect and have this conversation, and I'm looking forward to sharing this with everybody out there in the world.
Thank you so much, Jerry. It's been great fun. Great way to start our Sunday morning.
Thanks, mate.